to sound all congested, but that's okay.
Okay, we are rolling.
Yeah, that's my line.
Well, it's getting cut out.
Is it?
Yes.
I don't cut things. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Gig Pray Love Cast. I am your intrepid and currently infirm host, Sam Glazer, and my guest today is about to introduce themselves.
Hey, I am Reggie. What am I known for? I play some instruments. I'm in some bands.
Mm-hmm.
I do a podcast
Mm-hmm.
called Spit Sessions.
Shouts out Spit Sessions.
And,
Delancey, I'm coming for you next, buddy.
Yeah, he's coming on you next, Delancey. So
I said
yeah,
four.
that's what
Or
I
four,
do.
like in his name. For Delancey.
And I'm a videographer now.
Yeah.
And we're doing a music video, right?
We are, yeah, we're planning we're doing our shot plan / storyboard for a music video.
I'm
for
working
an
on my
unnamed
Chi-Town
artist.
jiggle.
Yeah, there's going to be a cameo.
No, that's what the guy holding the camera has to do during the trap videos.
Oh, I thought you meant that was like a dance. I'm so out of touch these days that I just assume when someone says something especially related to Chicago and I don't know what it is, it's either a dance move or a new restaurant.
I think that's a hit song that you should write.
The Chicago Jiggle.
The Chi-Town jiggle.
The Chi-Town Jiggle.
Because I don't know if you remember, that was like a big thing. Well, it's been a big thing forever, honestly. I was going to say
like Chief Keef videos or...
Well, I was going to say in the 90s, but it's all the time where like, okay, we need a hit song, so let's create a dance and then make a song about the dance and then have the dance in the video.
Yeah, like
and then
Walk It Out. You remember Walk It Out?
Right, but like even Do the Hustle, it goes back forever.
Yeah,
and it's still happening. Casper Slide,
Electric Slide. Absolutely. I remember when the Electric Slide used to be like a portion of the, at least my CPS gym repertoire. And I'm not talking like one year the gym teacher ran out of ideas and like, what's something I can stretch out over the course of 3 days? Like, nope, this was every year. And I think we actually transitioned from the Electric Slide to the Hustle. Maybe they thought the Hustle was
and nobody was
a little
holding
bit
balls
too adult
during
for
this?
people. No, we were just, line dancing essentially
For an entire 40-minute period, or
something like that. This is grade school.
you went to a messed up grade school. Now dance for me.
Look, man, my school was all right. Actually, that's been a point of contention and or a point in the news. If anybody's noticed, Lincoln Park's Oscar Mayer Elementary has been talking about installing a barrier or just an edge of a zone basically for where they're going to be accepting kids from. And speaking as someone who did go to that school when it was a bit of a magnet, a bit of a aptitude, like not even an aptitude required or preferred school. Like there wasn't even like there was no huge testing thing when I was first there, but we also started that whole independent study program, higher like gifted lesson type stuff while I was in school there, which is kind of cool. But now it's ballooned into this school where people actually want to take their kids because of the groundwork that the people in my years went like.
I didn't know that's where you went. I feel like that was a good school when I was a kid too. I remember seeing that bus. I used to ride the bus to school, and I would see
on the up and up,
that
man.
competing bus.
Yeah. But anyway, I've taken us off on a strange tangent here. Reggie, you mentioned that you play some instruments, so people can assume you have a history in the music scene. But can you kind of go into that a little more? Tell them about your personal history a little bit.
So I was always interested in music, but cost was a big factor. My grammar schools didn't have very good music programs or a lot of money, unfortunately.
Same.
So when I got to high school, I just like went buck wild. I was taking 2 fine arts classes because I was into like drawing and painting too, which I'm terrible at and did not continue with. I took a drama class because I was obsessed with improv at the time, and
Very Chicago of
I
you.
also took the opportunity to play an instrument. So I played trumpet for 2 years, which I loved. But I had it in my mind for some reason that uh, nobody plays more than one instrument. If you want to learn another instrument, you have to just quit the other one you're playing, which in retrospect is ridiculous. But I started playing bass my sophomore year.
Stopped playing trumpet. Goodbye to the
Yeah,
trumpet years.
trumpet. Goodbye, trumpet forever. But I was also renting it too, so that was a monthly cost.
True.
So I started playing bass, and then I think a year later I played guitar, but not like, I was never one of those people who wanted to be shredding or any of that. It was just like I want to write songs and record songs, and I need to know how to play guitar a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think it kind of continues to this day. Like if I'm writing something, I write from the bass a lot, and then I'll just like slap chords on top of it. Then I started playing drums. I think around 21 or something.
Goodbye bass and guitar? Question mark?
No, I always kept playing, but what happens is everybody always needs a drummer, especially a drummer with a car, which happened, I don't know, when I was like 26. So I get asked to play drums the most.
Hmm.
And I enjoy all the instruments. I'll probably say I enjoy drums the least, but that's unfair to the drums. It's just I think when you have a certain amount of creativity, well, like when you're not to diss the drums, but like when you're more than a drummer, uh, but you have a very defined role in a band where you just play drums. It can be so. I really love playing drums, but it has to be like for the right project, I guess.
Right.
I'll say.
I mean, I just remember Reggie and I were in a band together for a few years, and the thing that always struck me about his writing was that uh, it was just interesting compared to the radio rock, compared to even the other bands that we would see, because I kind of felt like you went through a less traditional style of writing. Like you said, you kind of sometimes wrote from the bass, and there were some guitar riffs that you ended up like showing me how to play that just blew my mind in terms of composition. I never really had written anything myself like that, and I was super impressed with
Uh,
the stuff you came up with.
so when I got into songwriting, I was listening to like, like Nirvana and Daniel Johnston and Radiohead. I guess I always really enjoyed simple but true verse, chorus, verse songs. But I also really liked chords a lot, and part of developing that came from not having any money or gear growing up. So when I was playing guitar, I didn't have a guitar amp. I was playing out of a karaoke machine that I don't even know how we got in my house. And I had, I didn't even have a $20 distortion pedal or anything. So playing power chords, it sounds like nothing. It doesn't sound
Right.
full. It doesn't sound good. So I was kind of forced to like learn these voicings that sounded really appealing through a clean, really cheap guitar, really cheap amp. But I think songwriting wise, the the really simple thing that I do to switch it up is instead of writing like an A B, C for a bridge, I'll write like an A B C D. Like I've written songs where like you never go back
Yeah, there's no
to
repetition of
a
like a
part.
theme or anything. Yeah.
So when you're singing over it, okay, you're going back to a verse, but like the riff isn't necessarily the same. Like
Kind of in the style of like more progressive bands, kind of like a Mars Volta or a like going
I
back.
guess, but like I've always liked the just mixing stuff, right? And I like the idea of like, okay, you can write, uh, music wise something that's a little more progressive, but then just like sing some pop stuff over it.
Yeah.
And then it happens more than I think non-musicians realize. Like,
Correct. Yeah.
yeah. So,
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about that. The lack of mainstream knowledge about the amount of work that goes into a single pop song. Like most people aren't aware that people that are in a position like Beyonce, or any pop star, even the great Taylor Swift, I don't think 100% writes all of her own music. There's always a focus group at some point that sits down with a little red pen and goes, yes, yes, nope, maybe, maybe, nope. Okay,
well,
and
there's
then
people that you've
Kyle,
never.
can you come in here, please? Yeah, we need you to come up with a good word for this section here. Yeah.
I think there's people that you've never heard of that make a lot of money writing songs.
Who's that guy who wrote like four of Britney Spears hits, a couple of NSYNC songs, a Backstreet Boys tune from Sweden or something? Nils something.
Yeah.
Like that guy, without the article on him that so many music outlets wrote, I don't think anybody would know that those weren't Britney Spears' words or JT's words or Joey Fatone's words.
Joey Fatone.
I really worked hard to not say fat one. I was not able to restrain myself. Moving on. So we were in that band together for about 5 years, and tumultuous times in everyone's life. Words were said that were not 100% meant. And luckily, we have all come out on the other side, most of us still being very friendly with one another, which is really cool. I appreciate that. It is due to the patience of people that are not currently speaking into the microphone. But I remember, like, we used to play so many odd or cool or just, like, kind of depressing and weird but still fun venues that, like, a lot of them aren't even in operation anymore. Like, the Double Door is gone now. Teeny Martini Ultra Lounge closed after we did the very first Midwest Ska Fest there.
Yeah.
And, like, ran a grill in the backyard without any, like, food permits or anything.
Yeah, I think when it comes to, bands, everybody says bands are hard, but it's really hard to understand how hard it is until you've been through the experience. It is like dating, but worse in some ways. I don't. Yeah, there's ups and downs and everything, but I think that period of my life I can't help but look back on fondly. And, I tell this story a lot, but this is my first time on this podcast.
Yeah.
I had a huge wake-up call because I've been performing, since high school, but, like, gigging in bands since, like, 18. And then you get so used to that lifestyle. Like, I played hundreds and hundreds of shows, and I had a coworker come. I think it was to the first Midwest Ska Fest, and she was like, "Wow, like people daydream about like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if I got to perform one time, like sing one time on stage and have people clap for me or whatever." And I was like,
Tell those people to go to karaoke.
karaoke, yeah, you definitely get a taste of that. But I realized how that I was in effect living my dream, right? I wasn't rich or famous, but I was making money technically playing original music with people that I didn't hate that much. And like I was doing it right, and I feel like even now it's like nobody can ever take that experience away from me that I continue to have on a monthly basis.
Yeah, I think that's a really great way to look at it. I feel the same way. Like and this is a cliche thing to say, but the older I get, the more I like take stock of the kind of stuff that I've been able to do, and the places that I've been able to travel to, the people that I've been able to meet, and sometimes it's hard to like. I'm not a religious person, but I would never call myself blessed just because of the connotations. But sometimes I just think like I've gotten to do some absolutely bonkers shit in my life, and it's so cool to look back and not just that sense of personal satisfaction, but also to like the understanding that you in the creation of an art have touched someone else's life. And I think that that's just so cool.
Yeah, I think as a human being, you always have your what if questions, but I think our what ifs are different, right? Because we took certain risks and made certain decisions,
Hmm.
but I think we still got the best of both worlds, right? I mean, you're not dying of hunger and you're have a partner in your life, right? But you still got to finish college and experience music. It's like
Yeah.
it's not the most traditional thing, but I don't feel like we really missed out on anything big by going down that avenue, pursuing art.
No, definitely not. And I've had glimpses of like the other places where life could have taken me. Like that I moved across the country for a couple of years, and at the time it looked like Um, I was just going to kind of be someone that worked in the machine side of making signs and putting them up and stuff like that for the rest of my life. That's what I was going to be doing, and I was sure of that at that time. And um, there were people in my life at the time that wanted to see my life go in another, like, even further different direction than that, into a professional sense, and the traditional 9 to 5 commute an hour to the job that you don't really like, but smile at the paycheck when it appears in your bank account, and try to do your best to, like, live your life happily outside of there. It doesn't work that well for me. And being in the music world, you meet people who have kind of cobbled together this life plan that doesn't involve, like, going to second, like, going to grad school to get another degree or anything like that. You can take this life that you have and the people that you meet and make it profitable, not just for you but for those people as well. And I've kind of just been using that motive a little bit more lately.
And I think today, and not to be like get too into the weeds politically or anything, I think today you have uh, not an equivalent amount of the unknown, but like this isn't the same as 15 years ago where you get a degree in almost anything and then you can just work somewhere and make a certain level of money and have a certain level of success. There's the same as pursuing your dream, or whether you go the traditional university route, you may end up working the same job. You'll be a starving artist essentially either way, whether you're working full time doing a thing with no extracurricular, or if you decide to be a part of the gig economy and pursue something that's more fulfilling. So I
Definitely.
think, I mean, it's a blessing and a curse in a way. It'd be nice to just say, well, F it, I'm going to fall back on this and have security. But at the same time, it's a little freeing to say, well, I might be broke either way, so let me just at least try to do what I really want to do.
Hmm. I mean, let's kind of delve into that idea a little bit. You just said, let fall back on X, Y, or Z. Like, let's talk about planning, because I know for certain that in the last year, as I've moved away from full time remodeling work and carpentry and moved more towards um, working in like my gigs, as you say, that my calendar has become, the second closest partner to my life partner. I wake up every morning and check my calendar. What am I doing today? What's on tomorrow? What's on in a week? Like, just refreshing my own failing memory and making sure that I can keep up with everything that I'm trying to schedule for myself. Have you found that to be true as well?
Yeah, especially lately, I'm fairly lucky that the main thing I do, it allows me a good amount of time for myself, and then I make a little bit of money. Lately, I've been doing more photography and video work,
Yeah.
and just trying to collaborate with people. And it's gonna get more hectic because I'm moving next week, and my studio, little home studio, is gonna be set up, and I want to have a lot of people come in and work with them. But I do find that, like, so yesterday, for instance, I produced a video for this restaurant, for their Kickstarter, Pocho's restaurant in McKinley Park.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, I had to do a photo shoot with a friend. And then after that, I was like in my car and I drove 2 blocks towards my house, and I remembered that I promised somebody I would meet their kitten that day. So, and then today, we're doing our podcast. We have a meeting about working on a video project. And
Mm-hmm.
then I have to work my quote regular job, and then when I get home, I have to edit the video that I took yesterday of the restaurant.
Yeah.
So it is like that. But like I get why it's scary and overwhelming for certain people to be so invested in themselves, because it can get overwhelming. But the way that I think about it, and maybe it's a little different for me because I've had a lot of different jobs,
Yeah.
uh, like working that hard for somebody else as opposed to myself. And it's cliche, right? And it's we hear it all the time, but
Is
like,
it though? I really do feel that it carries a lot more weight to be in control of your own schedule, and that satisfaction that comes from it is unmeasurable. In
Right,
my
like it's a
opinion.
cliche, but it's true.
Right.
And I think
It's a cliche for a reason.
it's one of those things where sometimes you kind of have to learn the lesson the hard way. And I get why. Look, if you're working a 9 to 5 and making great money, and you have enough time to do whatever else, like that is great. But another thing that I learned or was told very young is, you can always make more money, but you can't produce more time.
Right.
My time is, even if I'm doing nothing with it, it's my time. Like if I just
Right.
want to veg out, is $20. I guess it depends on how hungry you are, because I've been very broke, and $20 is a very big deal, and it still is to me. But I guess you get my
Same.
point. It's like, I've been so busy for 2 weeks straight. I just want to watch Stranger Things season 3.
I did that with the boys the other day. I literally watched through the
I
whole
keep
season.
forgetting. Did you read the comic book?
Yes.
Yeah, I was a fan of that.
Yeah, me too.
So the show was good.
Shouts to Garth Ennis for writing it in the first place.
I like that actor too, the Judge Dredd guy.
Carl Urban.
Yes, Carl
Yeah.
Urban.
I have a tweet that I need to take down because I,
Oh,
I
no.
definitely like. Well, no, I posted it as like great Cockney accent, bud, and he's definitely not doing a Cockney accent. He is for sure doing like some sort of coastal, like almost Australian or New Zealand. I cannot honestly tell.
There's
but
just something wrong with your ears. Huh?
I'm an American and I'm an idiot. That's what's wrong with me.
Wow, you did exactly what Billy Joe Armstrong said he didn't want to do.
Yeah. I am not ashamed to admit it. But moving on from The Boys, which is an amazing show and everyone should give a shot to, just because, I mean, the concept alone is very cool. I'm not going to ruin anything for you, but there's something dirty about the superheroes. So if you liked The Watchmen, you will probably like The Boys.
There's a new Watchmen show coming out. I've not watched the trailer, but
Oh,
I will watch the show.
oh, it will send chills down one of your body parts.
Down my crack.
Yeah, I'm really looking at finally we're getting to the point where I feel like the comic book universe is getting exhausted in terms of like mainstream characters, and they're starting to work towards the more indie titles that I am excited to see.
It has a lot to do with how television has changed in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So we completely got off of planning, but so planning, everybody, planning, super important. Planning, always.
I'm
remember
I'm
to
a
plan.
master of derailing conversations and podcasts.
No,
so.
yeah.
Sam
That's-
here has an outline, and I'm talking about comic books and
That's
whatever else.
okay. I'm not complaining. This is the exact kind of conversation I love having because, we're buds. We chat about stuff other than shop stuff. But getting back to shop stuff, or rather ship stuff, sponsorship, or in the event that there is no sponsorship, saving. Like, I've never been part of a sponsored tour or a gig that was sponsored really by a large company. Like, we had a quote-unquote sponsorship for Midwest Ska Fest after we got into the Double Door, also RIP, and we had a sponsorship with Ska Brewing, appropriately, for a Ska Fest, but it wasn't they didn't pay for any of the operational costs. They just kind of helped us out with some other stuff.
I haven't done enough with that, and in retrospect, I feel really stupid, because if you have your shit together even a little bit, it is really easy to get products and even a little bit of money from these companies. I learning, through my podcast, we got a couple of things donated to us. No money so far, but it was just as simple as like you just DM somebody on Twitter, like not even seriously. They're like, "Oh yeah, we'll send you like 8 gallons of lube or whatever." And we were sponsored by Gun Oil.
You were,
for
I
a
remember
time.
that.
But I kind of learned, from Jeff too, our mutual friend who's done some journalism and worked with some companies. It's like, if you have even any kind of business outline or plan to show them, they're like, sure, yeah, why not? And I'm finding that out even more recently, doing more video work and helping this restaurant with their Kickstarter campaign.
Mm-hmm.
We're approaching some local businesses like Target and Jewel. And it's like, be like, hey, we have this much going on and we need this much. It's like, okay, here's like $1,000. You know,
Mm.
it's I don't know. I think it's hard to merge those worlds, but you're seeing it become more and more necessary because the DI. So this DIY or die attitude, it's all great, right? But it's not as punk rock as it used to be because when you're an independent artist these days, you have to be an artist, a promoter, a business person, right?
Yeah.
And it's cool to be able to have that much control, but especially for people who are a little bit older like us, that's not how we came up, right? Like that wasn't.
I feel like we came up, I mean, Run and Punch did, our old band, right at the beginning of it, I feel like.
So we just
When
didn't.
it just became the expectation that a band was going to book its own shows and set up all its own bills and, make its own album just happen out of thin air.
But I
Oh
think
yeah.
adding the aspect of like uh, good marketing and promotion, but also like we were talking about sponsorship. In retrospect, we missed out on so much money and opportunity because we just. And I don't want to say we weren't savvy enough because I think we're all smart enough to do it. We just like you get stuck in this mode where like, well, I'm a band, I'm a musician, I'm a painter or whatever. I'm not this or that. But I think you see so much. You see proof of it happening right all the time. Like artists partnering or getting sponsorships.
It's kind of like
That's just
about
kind of how it
knowing
works
your
now.
potential, like
Yeah.
figuring out. And I guess this kind of ties into a lesson I talked last episode with Flora, um, and again with the first episode, Bodega, my good buddy Dominic. Like, it's not. I mean, knowing your worth was it kind of is a dirty phrase to a lot of people because people don't really like to look at their art, look at this thing that they've, perceivably poured their heart or emotions or pain into, to then turn around and try and assign a dollar amount to the time you spent on it, to the pain you went through for it to be this piece of art that you created and stuff. It's it's a really weird thing to kind of step back and examine yourself and to try and even compare yourself to other artists, because that's the one thing that most artistic mentors I've had have told me not to do. Like, never compare yourself to this painter or this musician, because they did things differently than you will, and someone will start after you and do things differently from you and from the person who came before you, and they may hit the come up before you do.
It's so hard to judge because I think a lot of it is dependent on who is trying to hire you or buy from you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, um, if you're until you reach a certain level, which we may never reach, you can't go to a venue and say I want a $1,500 guarantee,
Mm-hmm.
even if your songs mean a lot to you and you know that objectively your songs are great. It's like that's not it doesn't quantify that way,
Who's
right?
going to fulfill that $1,500 payout for you plus whatever they have to
But
give
what's
the other
funny about all
musicians?
this is you said you're a fan of the Jay Okerson. What is it called again?
Oh, the bonfire?
Yeah, the
Crackle,
Bonfire.
crackle.
I was listening to an early episode of the Bonfire when it came out, and they were talking about how like uh, Big J was saying he missed out on so much money as a comedian because before he got a manager, he would be like, I don't know, $500. I'm only working an hour, right? And then his comedy was the same, his following was the same, but just having a manager work as a middleman, he would get $5,000 for a gig sometimes, right?
Mm.
Or $10,000. It's hard as an artist to have the perspective of knowing how much to charge. And actually, we were talking about it before we started the podcast. Like, so I've been doing videography like regularly for about a month now, and it's it's like so I have hourly rate and day rate in my mind, like what it is, but it has to be fluid because it's I feel like my rate is very fair in general and lower than what I've gotten quoted, as a musician wanting a music video or whatever for myself.
Mm-hmm.
But uh, I got approached by somebody who's a dancer the other day, a fellow artist that I know doesn't have a lot of money. I don't want to charge them my day rate if I don't have to. Hopefully, we can work something out. And then on the same day, I got approached by this guy who is a businessman and does seminars. I would assume that his budget is much higher, and I don't want to lowball myself by charging him my day rate. And I think that kind of goes for everything, right? Like, uh, I'm friends with Cats and Art, a great artist here in Chicago.
Yeah.
She just got to do some beer taps for, where was that, Goose Island?
Oh snap! I didn't hear
I
about
have
that.
no idea how much she charged for that, but again, how much do you know to charge?
Do you think she charged in stock? I'm surprised more artists who do work for big corporations like that don't charge
Yeah,
as like because I mean
because the
after
company
that
probably
Facebook guy, man.
give the company was probably fine with giving out 20 stocks, right, and a couple $100.
Sure.
And she also got to do a CTA train,
Ooh.
like more than half. It wasn't just one car; it was like half the train, I think.
Mhm.
But again, it's like, how much do you charge? $500 would make a huge difference in your month, right? Or however much, or whatever length of time. But at the same time,
Universal basic income.
right? But if you know that it's like $1 million company and they probably have a budget of $5,000, it's
Yeah.
like,
Why not charge 5K?
I don't know.
I mean, it would never affect your quality level charging more or less.
Let's all go
but-
to a seminar about how to manage ourselves.
Yeah. Mm. Bring recorders and heckle. Speaking of, I mean, like just monies. I mean, buying food, man. Who else is Team Aldi? Everybody Team Aldi. Stand up.
Aldi's come a long way. It's hard for me because I grew up on Aldi when it was like way
Crap.
trashier. Yeah.
Same.
So I have somewhat of a mental block, but I have gone there for things. I still don't think that I can go to Aldi for all of my shopping, and I like to just get everything in one place and get it over with.
Mhm.
But I'm happy with where Aldi is now. Their tuna is excellent, and I think it's sustainably caught. It costs less than what it costs at like almost any other store, for example.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they still overcharge for certain things, like as their capital, I assume, has been growing in the U.S. They've been introducing those, little snack packs with like it's got a couple of pretzels and red pepper hummus in a little cup in the bottom, and that is still going for like $2, where you could get the whole ass thing of hummus for $3.
Food is crazy though. I know
Yeah.
that we all, even if we're poor, we eat out more than we should, and the price of food gets inflated a little bit. But like,
Yeah.
I remember when I was unemployed and I had EBT and I was getting $200 a month, just not worrying about food costs at all for a month. Like, I mean, I could live on $2 a week. Like I need a little bit for the bus, the train to get somewhere, go to some job interviews. But like, stay with a friend, have bus fare, and then have your food taken care of. That's like a game changer, man.
It really is. It really is. I mean, I'm thinking about I've moved away from it somewhat, but I used to be a nearly everyday Instacart driver, and I did a $200 shopping trip for someone at an Aldi. And this is, I mean, I don't know if the prices really change from location to location. I don't think they do, but imagine, all you Aldi people, how much stuff you can get for $200 at an Aldi. It's a lot of stuff. It was like at the very least a month's supply of food, if not more. That kind of money sounds like not very much, but if it were to just be there for you, that would be real nice.
I've been trying to eat better, just like chicken and vegetables and stuff, right? But like, I found if I go to a regular store like a Jeweler or Mariano's, because it's the location, the time constraint, I can easily just spend $60 there for a week's worth of food, especially if I get one or two items that's outside of like this very regimented, cheap whatever.
You go like for a steak,
Yes.
one single steak.
And that's what I hate. Like I go to Peoria Meat Market here as much
That
as I
is
can
Such the move.
because their meat is it's a very high quality and it's very affordably priced. It's cheaper than Walmart.
More or less, like I think you get to pick each thing yourself.
Yeah, but again, I have the luxury of having a car, and I can make 3 stops, to do weekly groceries if I have to. if you have to walk with your cart to the closest spot, you may have to shop at a goddamn Target, which has horrible
Blah.
food prices these days, at least.
Off? No, always has. Probably always will. Wait, Target, you're overcharging your customers
You
on their
would think a
food.
big store like that, kind of like how Walmart can, charge a little bit less for everything. It's a
Yeah.
big store. They have all
You're
their
ordering
products
in
are
like
diversified.
massive quantities.
Yeah, charge a little bit less for your food. Put your Massimo pants up $1 and then charge a little bit less for the food. Come
Yeah.
on.
I mean, that's a whole other drain on someone's budget. Speaking of someone who works in now heavily in the catering and event service space, I have to have pairs of nice black pants, at least two or three for the week, because I'm not going to wash the same pair of pants 3 times in a week, and I'm also not going to show up to the gig looking dirty. Although my cat did, speaking of dirty, I didn't realize I had cat hair all over the back of my shirt at my last gig. That was real nice.
That's the life. I went to I was a paramedic for a while, and I did part of going through that education program is you have to do an incredibly long internship in various parts of the hospital, like OR, ER, et cetera, ICU, plus time on an ambulance with already licensed paramedics. But I've always had pets, and I remember going to, I believe it was an OR covered in cat hair.
Oh. Oh no.
Luckily, I had to change into scrubs, but I was embarrassed in the little changing room because I was like, dude, I can't even believe I have this. Like, probably
This much.
the top 5 of most pet hair I've had on me in my life, and it was on that day, right?
It's. I do love my long hair cat though. He's so fucking handsome, and I love to rub my face on his face.
I took a video of him while we were talking for my
Mhm.
Instagram story.
Excellent. Please send me a screen cap so that I can make that the cover art for this episode. Shouts out to my cat. I think we've covered a lot of stuff so far. Do you have any specific tips that you want to give to the people about the gig life economy, the things that you've learned through the music world or through the medical space or any of that kind of stuff?
I would never pretend to be an expert on anything, but I would say I've I've just done so many different things. Like, I've worked as a valet, a repo man, an EMT, a project.
You
I
were
feel
a
like
videographer earlier in your
yes,
life.
about 10 years ago, that's how I got my start doing videography for a bootleg, minority-centered Girls Gone Wild, and that's how I learned how to use a camera. Uh, but I think so I guess this preface is all about I've kind of been in a couple of sectors, and that's kind of how I've been able to round out my knowledge of things and kind of get some perspective. I think advice that I would give is if you don't have kids, just do whatever you want to do. Even if you do have kids, be good. I'm saying if you're, I'm in my 30s now, but so I don't want to use age as a qualifier. But like, look, if you're not responsible for a bunch of other people and making sure that they're safe and hungry or not hungry, follow what you want to do. Just try it out. Like, what do you really have to lose, right? I get that it's scary, but as long as you're not in a position to let down a bunch of other people and completely ruin your life, just do it. Do it for 6 months, do it for a year, just see. Because you don't want to be wondering what if.
Yeah.
When you're, and it's so cliche, but it's one of those things that's true. And also, don't be afraid to work for free or for cheap. We're in a weird place where I know everybody's like, oh, I'm about getting this bag and this and that. Look, man, and unpaid internships are bullshit, et cetera, et cetera. I agree with all that. But like, how many people have, you got to make connections. You have to network. You have to be nice to people, which is huge. Don't be a dickhead. Even if somebody's wrong, even if you're having a bad day, like every show that I play, I thank the sound guy. And I mean it. And I thank the promoter. And I think, all that stuff has people remember you. Don't be a dickhead at your regular job. For instance, my podcast partner, Delancey, he is friendly and nice to everybody no matter what, even if they're a piece of shit. And he went from barista to managing a vegan diner, vegan
Yeah.
diner,
Yeah.
uh,
Vegan.
just because he was nice to people at his barista job that he hated. Somebody left for a better opportunity. A year later, they're like, hey, we're hiring another manager. I would love to bring you on because I know that you work hard and I know that you're a good person. You never, like, part of networking is not about whose coattails can I ride, who can I suck up to. It's about just being a good person to the people around you.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to, again, cliche stuff, what goes around comes around, all this. I don't necessarily believe in balance in the universe. I believe in a chaotic universe. But if you're just playing the odds, if you're nice to everybody, somebody will be nice to you back. Somebody will remember you, and you'll get something in return. So don't be nice for just to get shit in return. Be nice because it's the right thing to do.
Right, exactly.
But you'll get yours.
Be genuinely nice. And I want to go back real quick because you said don't be afraid to work for free. And I have a lesson that I wrote down that you said earlier. Be fluid. And kind of what I took from that was scale your cost like vis-a-vis your customer. But, of course, never sacrifice quality. And don't be afraid to reach a little bit. We're in this weird time where it's the intersection of this dick ain't free and also art is pure and should not have a dollar sign connected to it. So it is this like hard line to ride, but if you are going to be using your art as a vehicle for your living, you have to get real with yourself and you have to consider where you're at in your space and try to work around inside of it as much as you can. Make sure that you're doing the best that you can and that you're working with good people and that you're all getting something out of it.
But it's all relative, right? So we all know that, look, doing an unpaid internship for Chase, that's bullshit, man. Playing for exposure at like one of the top 3 biggest venues in the city, that's bullshit. But at the same time,
can you buy that exposure?
There's something to be said for that. So, for instance, I played for exposure somewhat recently. Joe's on Weed Street. They could have paid me, right?
Oh, for sure.
And I was very salty about not getting paid for it, especially because they are very anal about when you have to show up and when you can leave.
Right.
So, I think I played at 11, and I was at that venue from like 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. I believe, and didn't get paid. I got free drinks, I got food, but I mean, I could afford my own drinks and food. And you know that those
You could
drinks
have been
and food
having those drinks and food at your house.
and those drinks
on
and
the
food
couch.
cost them like nothing.
Right.
And just to digress slightly, playing at a place and they only give you 2 PBRs, fuck you, buddy.
Yeah.
What do you think those PBRs cost them? Like 25 cents a piece?
Yeah.
I get
It's gotta
that
be.
you don't want a whole band and all their girlfriends and all their friends to drink for free. I totally understand that. But you have a band coming in and working. Even if you don't want to pay them, at least let them drink whatever they want for 2 hours, right? Come on.
The Mutiny was always really good about that. Also, R.I.P.
Yes.
Yeah. They would give you those little mini pitchers of what was it? Long Island.
We
iced
got
teas.
Long Island, yeah.
You'd get a mini pitcher, 2 of them.
Too many pictures of Long Island. But I guess, so talking about playing for exposure. So I played at Joe's on Weed Street. They could have paid me. I was there for a shit ton of hours. But it was worth it to me because I got to open for Santa Cecilia, which won a Latin Grammy, I think a year or 2 ago.
Yep.
And I got to play with Amigos Invisibles, which I'm not sure if they won a Grammy, but their first album was produced by the dude from Talking Heads. He discovered them. And, just getting to meet those artists, share a stage with those artists, it's a great experience. Would it have been great to get a couple $100 from that? And did I deserve it? And could they afford it to give it to me? Of course. But turning it down based on, quote, principle, like, what does that get me, right?
Were they charging for tickets at this show?
Oh yeah, it was like $25 a ticket.
Because
They jagged us hard.
Well, I was just wondering, like, was it the kind of thing where they papered the room and they just like paid for a bunch of tickets to get people in, like sent tickets to all the different radio stations, or like
Maybe,
maybe,
but
but
those
probably
those
not,
groups
is
are
what it's
very
sounding like.
popular
Right.
with Latinos, Hispanic people. I don't know what the proper term is anymore.
I'm not even
Latinx.
going to try and be the white guy that tells someone else the correct
But another
term.
example is, so I've been doing videography like pretty hard for the last 2 months or so. We talked about earlier that I have rates and that I'm flexible on my rates, especially with artists.
Yeah.
Sam here wants to produce a video. I could easily be like, oh, I'll do it for like $100, homie price. But like $100 might be a big deal for him right now. And $100, is that going to make a huge difference in my life, my month? Am I $100 away from buying a really great piece of gear that's going to up my production value or allow me to get higher paying jobs? So why not just spend the afternoon shooting it, spend another afternoon editing it, get exposure to, because I don't know what his circle is like, right? I'm sure he'll easily get 1,000 views. I'll get exposure. It doesn't cost me a lot of anything time-wise. It costs me nothing money-wise. So you have to have perspective when you're talking about working for free or whatever. It's all relative.
There's also something to be said for, I am the lucky person in this situation that's going to benefit from having Reggie provide the service for me, and he's not charging me per se, but I'm also not going to be keeping 100% of the royalties, if there are any.
No royalties, sir, but
stream revenue. But like, the point is that like I just think that it's important to not discount that, like, doing, like just what you said earlier, doing a nice thing for someone or being nice to someone, and continuing like a good relationship, a working relationship with someone that neither one of you necessarily expect a payoff from, will pay off in dividends in terms of your relationship, and also, who knows, could be the viral success that you both needed. So again, should not be your main motive for being nice to people. It should not be your main motive for being like just a genuine good working partner with people, but it definitely doesn't hurt. Just appreciate the people around you for being the people that they are.
A big reason I got back into video stuff is because all cameras are great now. A bunch of cameras are affordable, but the tipping point for me was, working as a musician, and I always want to pay somebody what they're due. But for an unproven video guy to tell me that he's going to charge me $1,000 to shoot my video and however much more to edit it, dude, I respect that. And if you can get that, great. But taking, if it's not worth your time for less, fine. That's fine. But I've gotten that so many times, and there's nobody in my circle that can offer me a certain baseline of quality while also offering me like a price that I feel like is doable and fair for what I'm trying to do. And part of me getting back into it is being able to produce content for myself, for my music projects, for my podcast, but it's also like I want to be able to help my friends out. I if you're a photographer and you can make $500 a shoot, like, great, go get that. But a lot of people in my circle can't afford that. Mm-hmm. And if I can do band photos for somebody for $100, and we get into this a little bit where, we talk about like, oh, people who are financially secure, just doing this as a hobby, they're fucking up the prices for everybody. I think there's a lane for everybody.
Yeah.
If you're a photographer, you can do corporate headshots even if they're not fulfilling to you, and you can get paid doing that. And if you can do a certain level of band that can pay you a certain amount, that's there for you. But there are plenty of independent artists that don't, their recording budget is probably $200-$300. So how are they going to spend $1,000 on a video and $300 on a photo shoot?
Right.
So,
that's more than it costs to record the whole album.
Do I love to, get paid a little more to do something forever? Like, of course, but I like taking pictures. I like taking videos. I like working with artists that I like. And if I can help I think it's always mutual, right? It's like I'm helping them out, they're helping me out, because it's another thing that I can add to my reel. It's something that gets shown to a circle that I may not be in, and it creates more business for me.
Yeah.
And they don't have to know how much the last person paid, right?
Fair. And I mean, ultimately, to your point, in the same way that like it costs less money to buy yourself a 6 pack of beer and a pizza than to go out for a single night. Like, if you take that $1,000 you were going to spend on that video shoot with someone else, and you get your own equipment, and you learn the ropes and stuff, and you're able to do it yourself, you can turn that $1,000 into a couple $1,000 for yourself instead of spending it and giving it to someone else. And this again is not a shot at videographers or anyone that does for hire work like that. But if you, as the artist who is trying to promote their own work, can learn to do this thing and can take care of yourself in that fashion, this is the time to be that self-sufficient, for sure.
YouTube should be a big wake up call for everybody thinking about DIY. And like we touched on earlier, it's very easy to be like, I just paint, I just rap, or whatever. But you have fucking skateboarders out here cutting together these amazing montages, getting these great angles of them skating and having successful YouTube channels with.
I want to know like how much like of Roy Purdy's Instagram and YouTube channel is him. Like if that kookiness and that like wild, all
I'm
of
not
that
familiar
stuff,
with him specifically,
oh man,
unfortunately.
he's a young sponsored skateboarder who got viral off of his dancing videos on YouTube.
Is
Like,
he Asian?
no, it's a white
Okay.
kid. He wears the pink and green uh, shades in his videos all the
I
time.
haven't
They're
seen
like
him.
all kooky and 80s shaped. Anyway, we're
Uh,
getting off track again.
Like
But
what I'm getting at is like the basics of that stuff is so deceptively easy, and there's definitely something to be said of developing an eye and getting the art of it. It's that takes a very long time. I'm not there, even though I technically have however much experience. But the simple mechanics of getting your exposure right, getting something in focus, shooting something, producing content, throw a camera on a tripod. My camera, I'm using a Panasonic Lumix G7. I got the camera with a kit lens for $400. Everybody,
and that's a better camera than I got for $400 back in college for sure.
this camera shoots 4K at 30 frames a second, or 24, which you should probably be shooting
Which
at.
means you can slow it down a little bit.
And it shoots 1080p at 60 frames a second. You can do
Slow it down even more.
anything you want to do with this camera, and it is a $400 investment, which I understand is a lot of money for some people, but like Sam said, instead of paying $1,000, so the price of this camera costs the same or less than a lot of what people would charge you to produce a music video.
At the least.
And not to say that you would produce a video that is anywhere near good as what they did, but you could come up with a decent concept, film yourself with some interesting tripod shots. You get a tripod for like $20 if you really want. DaVinci Resolve, the free version, is super fully featured. You can do anything you would want to do at an entry level. So like, get out there and do it if you want to do it.
Yeah. And on that note, let's kind of finish up the roundup here. Earlier you were talking about writing music, and when I kind of pressed you, you said the phrase "simple but true," which I really like, because there's lots of styles of music that are centered around like getting a little noodly and kind of seeing how crazy you can get with the scales or with the intonation or with the effects on your stuff. And like at the basis of like a lot of great songs, and I don't mean pop songs or hits, I just mean great songs, is just this very simple theme or whatever that runs through.
And relatable content in the song.
Right now, as you all should know, the wave is no longer my girlfriend dumped me and I broke my bike.
I think there's a place for all that, but I would say
Not in my house.
I listen to I've never been into like Joe Satriani, any of that guitar noodle stuff. I almost always hate drum solos. But think about, let's use Weezer as an example, right?
Sure.
So you could say that they do make good pop music. I'm not a fan of it, but they're getting streams, right? They're selling records, however you want to quantify it.
I don't. I mean, I'm gonna go online and see how many plays El Scorcho has right now, and that's one of the most simple songs.
Well, right. So what I was getting at is right now, anybody who is into music would say that Weezer sucks and has sucked for like 10 years. But they're at like the height of their game, right? But most people's favorite Weezer album is Pinkerton, and it is their truest album. When he was at his lowest point with his fucking lopsided legs, going through college, the girls he liked didn't like him. He had all these weirdo fantasies, and making songs, simple songs about that with like some cute solos in some of them. He created true and relatable content because we're all self-conscious losers to some extent.
Somehow, I guess I shouldn't say somehow, but their cover of Africa is now in their top 5 popular songs.
What did I
pushed
say?
El Scorcho out. I'm guessing.
I
But
have not met anyone, and
there-
again, I'm in a certain circle. I've not met anyone who likes that song. But as I said earlier, I'm sure that is making them a shit ton of money.
Their fourth most popular song, which has been out for less time than all but one other song in their top 5, has 71 million plays, and that's Beverly Hills. And then again,
That
like,
song is also awful.
yeah, it's not a good song, and it is dumb simple, but like it for
It's
lack of
simple.
a better phrase, it touches that chord
And
with people.
as much as I don't like that song, I've gotten it stuck in my head before, and
Mhm.
I've probably only heard it about 5 times because
Yep.
I run away from it.
Yeah, the way I used to with Whip My Hair and then Old Town Road.
You know what? I've only heard that song one time.
Same.
Because
Same.
I don't think it's a terrible song. I'm just not interested. It's not for me. I'm not
Yeah.
like a kid or whatever. I'm very happy for that guy, by the way, just saying.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I didn't mean for that to sound
Not
as though I was
suggesting
speaking
that.
down on Lil Nas X. Like
Just throwing it out
the
there.
come up has been amazing to watch at the very least, and like I'm not going to even try and say that the guy's got
It's
no
like-
reason to be popular. He's obviously able to get a lot of people to understand where he's coming from.
I don't consider
and stuff.
myself a hater, but like I don't give a fuck about all these artists, dude. I don't like either they make it or they don't. Whatever, unless I know them personally. Like what do I care, right?
Right.
But somebody like a Cardi B, somebody like a Lil Nas X, it's like Cardi B is such a regular ass kind of relatable person. And I remember seeing her first 2 videos that were on World Star, and I'm like, man, she's pretty whack. But hey, she's out here doing it. She's
Yeah.
making a little money, getting a tour, and then she blew up, and I'm like, man, this is a regular ass person just fucking doing their thing and blowing up. Lil Nas X, broke gay dude who's funny as hell on Twitter, just blows up with a song that I'm sure he didn't think was gonna blow up, and little kids love it, and it's great. It's like a little feel good story.
Yeah.
But do I care how many records Jay-Z sells? No.
No.
Nope, no bearing on my life.
I haven't listened to Jay-Z since The Blueprint, but moving on. Last thing that I think bears repeating is to not take the small stuff in your life for granted. Things like food costs, things like gas, insurance, the things that you can't really get away from, you will always need. Like, if it comes down to a point where you are unable to, like, if you have to choose between buying a week's worth of food and getting a music video done, or even buying a camera to shoot that music video, not everything, like, this culture of needing to broadcast oneself every single day can stifle a lot of people. And my suggestion is to make sure that you're doing okay in life before you try to overextend yourself. You have to realize where that line is and kind of take care of yourself, because if you're not around to produce your art or to run your company or to drive that delivery vehicle or to be in that emergency room or wherever, whatever it is that you do, if you're not doing well, then what you do won't be doing well.
Short version of that, pretty much all the advice you get on Twitter is bad.
Yeah, like you don't need to produce 6 IGTV videos per day. You don't. Also, your life probably isn't that interesting. No one wants to watch you sit in your room in a chair while your phone is perched on your desk and like smoke a blunt to a song. No one wants to see that shit. It's not helping you. Don't waste your time. Take care of you.
All right. Did we hit everything?
I think so.
Okay, I'm going to use I don't know if you do this in every episode, but there's usually the time in a podcast where people plug themselves.
Yes, absolutely. End of every episode.
So I'm a friendly dude. I'm on Twitter a lot. I like Twitter more than anything else right now. I'm Reggie Reg at Zoot Suit Zombie, all one word. That's also my PlayStation and Xbox gamer tag. I'm never playing, especially not online. But hey, you could do that. I'm on Instagram as Zoot Suit Zombie because some fucking jagoff. Like, so here's the thing. I've been using that tag
for as long as I've known you.
Since AOL Instant Messenger.
Yeah.
Every time I sign up for something, it is never taken. The only thing it's taken on is Instagram somehow, but when I search for the Instagram page, nothing pops up. So I don't know why I can't have it. Anyway, what else? So on my Instagram, you'll see a little bit of my photography I've been posting. It's it's nothing crazy. I'll be probably posting some more video snippets soon. My podcast Spit Sessions is on every streaming platform, including Spotify. We have a website. We have merch. I think our shirts are really good.
Yeah. Do you still have any of the mild sauce shirts?
Yeah,
that's
so
still my favorite.
We are selling those through the Threadless store just because it requires the least amount of money from us.
And it's one of those drop ship things where they just send it direct. Yeah, that's good.
I think the prices are still decent. We sell them for as low as we can, honestly. The only thing that sucks, if we're being real, is that Threadless charges like $5 for shipping for no reason. Even like they're in Chicago, we're in Chicago. But we're coming up on our 3-year anniversary in the fall, and we are working on a really cool design that I'm happy about. Also, our artist that we always go to is Brian Pace. I always forget his @ Message me. Seriously, you should work with this artist. He can do any style. He is amazing. He's very easy to work with, and his rates are incredibly fair. And I wish he promoted himself more because he could be doing art full time. So please hire him to do art. And if you want to collaborate on some music, hit me up. I'll show up and play some drums or some bass. Maybe. If you ugly enough.
Gotta be ugly. Well, thank you for coming by, sir.
My pleasure.
I really appreciate it. Everybody, please give a nice round of applause to Reggie Reg, a.k.a. at Zoot Suit Zombie, if you missed that. And one more time for that podcast as well, which I have to say, Spit Sessions really did help me through some hard times when I wasn't living at home in Chicago. And I listened to, I think you guys were still like not quite into the 30s yet by the time I got back, but I listened and re-listened to all of those episodes while I was living out in Colorado when I just was feeling kind of homesick, just listening to you guys have a fun conversation on the podcast and being able to like laugh in Chicagoan, if that makes any sense.
It's hard to understand if you're being Chicago or not, but I think you just you let the cat out the bag. I guess we're a Chicago-ass podcast, huh?
Damn.
We're used to ourselves, so we don't know if we're being Chicago or not.
It's definitely drawn into stark contrast when living in a town whose population is less than 30,000 when school is not in session. So, yeah. Anyway, thank you again for coming, everybody. Reggie, Zoot Suit Zombie, Spit Sessions. It's all lit. Go check out their stuff. And his partner, who is not here today, I'm hoping to have on soon, is also a very funny guy and has a sweet, silky voice. So, yeah, check out Spit Sessions. And thank you for listening to another episode of Gig, Pray, Love, where you do that gig. You pray that it went well and make sure you do everything you can so that it does. And at the end of the day, you love what you do, because what the fuck is the point otherwise? Have a good one, folks. Reggie's doing the international hand symbol for the, what is that, the air horn? The hip-hop
Well,
air
yeah,
horn?
I wanted you to do the, was it the DJ Premiere drop right there? That's where I was doing it like with my hands because I'm not going to make the sound effect. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll throw it in there for you. Thanks again, everybody. Have a nice one.